Reminder, I am recording for folks that missed today.
Mhm.
My name is Terry Maxwell, and we will be sure that you're on mute since we're recording. And there will be several times where I'll be calling on folks to come off of mute so we can role play some of these techniques. My passion is growing businesses and leaders that make the world better. And one of the tools that I developed is something called authentic selling, which is what we're going to be going through. By the way, the vast majority of Shifco's events are free to the public. And so we have an event coming up on October 22nd called Business Simple. Business Simple is great for folks whose businesses are 5, 10, 15, $20,000 a month, and they're trying to scale it. So that event is on October 22nd. And then on November 5th, we have an event in our New York area called Gather and Grow. So hopefully you can join those events as well, because we're here to serve you. So my background is was a corporate growth executive in 1999. I was president of an internet company that went public on the NASDAQ stock exchange. Then I left that business. Prodigy bought us, and then AT&T bought Prodigy. I started my own consulting company, sold that in 2008. And then in 2009, I had this crazy idea that I would build a purposeful Shark Tank, and that is what I did. It's called Share on Purpose. Share on Purpose has a speculator fund, and we invest in conscious businesses. This is the world's first zero waste makeup line, so that's one of our investments. And then we also have what we call the cultivator. The cultivator creates companies and launches them, and we have 5 of those. And business number 6 is coming out of the cultivator next year and will launch in 2026. And it is a virtual reality product. So it's going to be quite fun. So I love what I do. I love growing businesses that make the world better. And I love teaching other folks how to do the same. What we're working with today in authentic selling is we're going to get one little basic element out of the way. And that is really, where's your buyer and how do you connect with them? And the reason why that's important is the vast majority of businesses that I work with, their issue isn't selling. Their issue is there aren't enough people that are aware that they exist. So we're going to get that out of the way. And then we're going to talk about really the science of when and why buyers make a purchase so that you can understand not what's happening to you, but what's happening to them. And then we'll role play some of these conversations that convert. How do we turn conversations that convert into clients? And so that's what we're going to cover. So let's start first with getting a few things out of the way. Where's your buyer? One is you have to know who you're serving. And a lot of times people have too small of a niche. So they've narrowed their lens too closely. And the reason why that's important is you might sell to a small niche, but you should broaden the lens a bit, because the goal is really getting more people aware that you exist. So that's number one, is got to make sure you've got that. Number 2 is you have to know where they are. And the reason why that's important is you're not waiting for them to come to you. What you're doing is you're going to where they are. And you're finding places where they are. You're hanging out there. Maybe you're speaking, you're doing podcasts, you're engaged in networking, or you're posting on a social media site. But you want to go where your buyer is. And then last but not least is it's something that you should do on a regular basis. And the reason is when anyone has a sales gap, which means a sales gap is when I don't have as much revenue and clients as I would like. Excuse me, I've got my allergies are kicking up. Whenever there's a sales gap, which means I don't have enough revenue and clients, it's almost always because there are not enough buyers that know that you're in existence. There's not enough awareness. And I can tell you that if you want to get better at selling, what you want to do is also get better at building awareness and making sure that more people know that you exist. And in every business, there's different ways to do that. There's not like one way to make that work. But what I can tell you is we have a program that is on our YouTube page called Authentic Marketing. And if you want to have new ideas to grow awareness, go into that program because that's all about growing awareness. So what we're going to assume at this point is that you know who your target market is, you know where they are, and you're good at making sure that more people know that you exist. If you don't solve those problems, what we're going to cover today is not going to help you. But if you tackle those three things first, what we're going to cover today is going to help you a lot. So let's start with some of the psychology, when and why buyers make a purchase. So authentic relationship building is not about a funnel. So you've probably heard click funnels and funnel science and, you know, what's in your funnel and lead magnets. I don't believe that those are effective as they used to be 5 years ago. And the reason why I don't think that they're effective is because I think buyers really want a relationship with the companies and the individuals they hire. They want to get to know you first before they buy from you. And I know that's true in my case. I looked at these little pods for, you know, the little Apple ear pod thingies. I can never remember the name of them, for a year and a half. And I tried, tried on some different types. I tried some different companies. I didn't buy them, but I would go try them on because I really wanted to make sure that I was making the best decision because these were more expensive than some of the competitive offerings. So that's an example. And I find this true with everything. This cup that I just bought on Amazon Deal Days, been looking at a cup like this for a long time. Why did I choose Hydro Flask? It wasn't just because it was on sale. It was because I had read the reviews and things like that. So net, people make buying decisions more conservatively across industries, products and services. And what they're seeking is a connection and a relationship. So rather than thinking about this like a funnel, we think about it as stages of a relationship. Friend and follower are the first two stages. And that is basically when a buyer is aware and interested. Technically, that is marketing. That's not selling. And we're going to obviously be covering the fan and fanatic side, but you've got to get really good at growing awareness and connecting with your potential buyers so they're interested, not in buying from you, but in connecting with you. They're interested in learning more. They want to learn more about what you do and why you do it. So if you're listening to today's webinar, you are now aware and interested in ShiftCo. That does not mean that you're ready to join our platform, even though it's very affordable and very effective. It just means you're aware and interested. And technically, what we did to market to you is we found ways to make sure that you were aware. And then we offered something of value, such as this webinar, so that you might be interested in learning more. That line right there in the middle between friend follower and fan and fanatic is where marketing stops and selling picks up. Selling is about connecting with somebody who is interested and serving them in such a way that they want or desire to buy from you. And as you're going to see when we look at the science part of this, that aspect is not something that you can manipulate, I believe, in today's world. I think people are on to the ClickFunnels lead magnet kind of stuff. They're on to the over-promising, under-delivering. And what they're really looking for is authenticity, connection, relationships, quality products. I looked at a lot of reviews before I bought this. I looked at a lot of different products before I bought this. The same thing is true with your buyer. They are looking for connection and authenticity. And so the selling part of this is when somebody actually makes the purchase. And that desire and taking action is the selling part of it. However, if there aren't enough people who are aware that you exist, I'm going to draw on the slide here. That's why you want to also get great at this part, and feel free to check out our webinar on authentic marketing. It's on our YouTube page. That one will help you on the left side, but let's assume for a second we've gotten good at that. We've got people that are aware and interested, and now we've got leads that want to buy from us. And those leads are when we start to sell. Now, the process that I'm going to walk you through is exactly the same, whether you're selling a physical product or whether you're selling a service or a program or anything along the lines. It's the exact same process. The way you do it is a little bit different, and I'll be sure to give some of those examples. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about this side of the equation over here. When somebody is aware and interested, and you've already got a lot of those folks, and now what you're doing is you're taking those folks that are aware and interested, what we call leads, and you're connecting and serving with them in such a way so they want to buy from you. And that's where we're going to look at this psychology of why do buyers make a purchase. Buyers make a purchase when they are ready to solve a problem or receive value. Okay, that's the key. Their readiness is what causes them to flip and buy. I became ready. I had a trigger event that told me I needed to go ahead and buy these headsets. It was time to do these AirPod things, whatever they're called. It was time. It was time to make that happen. I had a series of events that happened that said it's time to go ahead and buy. This was a $13 purchase, but I kept it in my Amazon cart, and and I was like, oh, I know the deal days are coming up. I really want it. I really want it. I'm going to wait when the deal days come. That's when I'm going to make the purchase. I saved $1.10, but that deal day trigger worked, but it wouldn't have made me buy the product if I didn't already want it. Let me say that again. Offers, discounts, buy now today only work when somebody wants to buy your product. So the real challenge is not so much the offer, the promotion, the FOMO thing. It's really getting to a point where more buyers want to buy your product and then connecting them with them in a very authentic way. And that's basically what we're going to talk about. So this process of desire and act is 75% getting enough people to that point, and 25% the way in which you connect with them when they're at this moment of being RTB, or what we call ready to buy. So this line here between this here, 75% of it is getting enough people to this point, and then 25% of it is taking those folks that are RTB, or what we call ready to buy, and connecting with them in such a way, which we'll talk about in a minute, that causes them to want to buy from you. Keep in mind, I knew I wanted this kind of cup. I narrowed it down to a couple of vendors. Eventually, I narrowed it down to one. It's a $13 purchase. And then I waited until it went on sale, and that's when I bought it. So how does that actually work? Here's the science. So we're going to take these same stages, aware, interest, desire, and act, and we're going to lay them into a chart. And this chart is very important because this is about a 5-decade-old set of research that I have based this methodology on. This is not new information. It's just that I've adapted it for the way conscious entrepreneurs work. And the way this chart works is, on the left side is the buyer's focus, what they care about. The higher the line that I'm about to show you, the more they care about it. On the bottom is the time and evolution of the relationship. So in the very beginning, when you're marketing to someone, they don't care about what you do or how you do it or why you do it. They care only about whether or not you understand and can solve their problem. So your marketing should be focused more on the problem you solve, not what you do. And I want to take that back to before we started today's webinar. I had everybody introduce themselves. I want you to go back and think about how you introduce yourself. Did you introduce yourself based on what you do, or did you introduce yourself on the problem that you solve? Check yourself, because the better you get at introducing yourself in the way of the problems you solve, guess what? The more people will be interested in learning more about you if they're in your target market. So that's the beginning of the relationship. That's still marketing, by the way. Now we look at the second phase. This is still marketing, where they begin to see you as the solution to their problem. So I'm narrowing down my options. I'm thinking about this A, option B. I'm looking at, what the different things are. All of that is marketing. But a very important thing happens. You need to know when someone is interested. How do you know if someone is interested? Well, I'll give you a great example. One of the reasons why we do webinars is so we can tell if someone is interested. If I'm out there chasing thousands and thousands of conscious entrepreneurs, I'm wasting my time and energy. But if I offer a webinar that gives tremendous value, somebody comes to the webinar, I know they are interested not in my solution, they are interested in solving their problem. Let me say that again. When somebody signs up for one of our webinars, I know they are interested in solving their problem. They're not necessarily interested in Shifco or me. They are interested in solving their problem. Think about the psychology of that for just a second. And so if you're talking too much about what you do and why you do it and how great you are, you're missing the boat. You want those early conversations to be about their problem and about solutions to their problem and benefits of solving that problem. Again, all of that is marketing. But that doesn't mean somebody is ready to make a purchase. It just means they're becoming ready to solve their problem. And by the way, this is true with things like this as well. There's algorithms on many sites where they can tell how far you click. Did you put the product in the cart? Are you shopping, other vendors? Are you price shopping? The same thing is true whether it's a product or a service. So that doesn't mean that they're ready to buy. It just means they're becoming ready to solve their problem, which is a very important distinction. The psychology behind this is buyers are always looking for solutions to their problem, always. And if you're out there talking about what you do rather than the problems that you solve and the benefits of your solutions, you're missing connecting with the buyer because they're not going to hear you. They don't always know their problem, however, and they're just searching. And I see this a lot in our business, where a lot of times people will think they have a marketing problem when they really have a selling problem, or they'll think they have a marketing problem when they really have a differentiation problem, or they'll think they have a conversion problem when they really have a website issue. So buyers don't always know their problem. And that's one of the things you have to be on guard for. And you've got to get better at describing their problem so they can recognize it. It also doesn't mean they're ready. So just remember that. When somebody doesn't buy from you, 9 times out of 10, it's not because of you, it's because they're not ready to really solve the problem. And then lastly, before we get into these conversations, they aren't necessarily looking for your company. It's not a build it and they will come. They are looking for a solution to a problem that they may or may not understand. They're not looking for your company. So if you're talking too much about what you do, you're going to miss the boat. All right. So along the way, connection and interest is key. And what this means is we've got to get better at introducing ourselves. I want to put that chart back up here for just a second, because the way in which you introduce yourself will cause somebody to go from being interested to going to desire. The way that you introduce yourself will cause somebody to go from interest to desire. And this idea of, the elevator pitch, it just doesn't work. Most entrepreneurs have been trained to give like 30-second elevator pitch, and it doesn't work because it's inauthentic and canned. Instead, what you want to do is you want to learn to introduce yourself. We call them power statements, in a way that generates interest. So, and I'm going to have a couple of you practice this in a minute. So you're going to think about who you are and the gift that you are to your buyer. Think value, think benefits. A gift is how a buyer benefits from working with you. It's the value that you provide. Value could be gift plus your passion. So when I introduce myself, as I did at the beginning, Although sometimes I'll give my bio because it's cool that I've taken a company public. It's cool that I have multiple exits. It's cool that I've started all these different businesses. But most of what I'll say when I'm in a networking event is my gift is growing businesses. I love helping entrepreneurs grow their business so they can make a difference in the world. That's it. It's 5 seconds of an introduction, maybe 10, but it's short and it's sweet. And then there's a pause after that. So you could say the value I provide is I help entrepreneurs grow their business. I like using the word gift because it feels authentic to me. It feels like a gift that I've been giving that I'm passing along. And then here's another example: is the value I provide is teaching leaders how to inspire the performance of their teams. Now, I want us to go back to how we introduced ourselves in the beginning. Did we say my company is this and what we do is that? That is typically how we introduce ourselves because that's how the elevator pitch taught us to do it. What I can tell you from a ton of research, that doesn't work. What we want to do is we want to introduce ourselves as my gift is benefit, the value is benefit, or this is the problem that I solve. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pause the recording, and then we're going to have a couple of people role play. I don't want to put you guys on video when we do that. So I'm going to pause the recording. Great job, everybody. As you can see, it's harder than it looks because we're so used to talking about what we do. And this is really important to practice. It's why we offer this one whole session in the Authentic Selling Pathway is just on doing this, because it is so important. And it sounds easy, but then when you go to do it, you start inserting all these things that you do and why you do it. And it's got to be about how the buyer benefits. All right. So now we have done that. We've gotten really good at having those initial introductions where people start raising their hand and they start going, I want to learn more about what you do. Whether it's a physical product or a service or a program, you are now going to be having conversations with your buyer. They are now a lead. And what we want to do is have conversations in such a way so that we both build a relationship with them and we convert not them into buying, but we convert their risk into value. And that's what we call conversations that convert. So let's come back to this for just a second, right? So in the beginning, we're talking about the buyer's problem. Now we're getting a chance to introduce ourselves. That was basically what we just did. Now somebody is starting to become ready to buy or ready to solve their problem. So now they want to know about price. And the challenge is that we think it is about price, and it's not. Here's the trick. The closer somebody gets to making a purchase, the closer somebody gets to making a purchase, the more they are in risk. It's not about price. I don't care what it is. This is a $13 product, and I can afford a $13 product. But what I didn't want is I didn't want to make the mistake of buying something I had to return, or buying something I didn't like, or buying something that wasn't as advertised. So when people think about price, they are not thinking about price. This is psychology. They are thinking about risk. And so let's kind of go through that. So here we are. I'm getting close to making a purchase. I want to know, like, how much does it cost? What is this going to cost me? It isn't about that. What it is they are feeling risk. And here's the irony. The more somebody wants to buy from you, the more risk they feel. Let me say that again. The more somebody wants to buy from you, or the more they want your product, the more risk they feel. And as they're evaluating your product, the more they want it, the more risk they feel. And I frequently, as I'm working very closely with our members in Shifco and coaching them through this point, they'll be like, well, I had 5 people who said they were interested and they didn't buy. And I said, no, you had 5 people that were feeling risk. That's it. It wasn't they didn't buy. You had 5 people that need and want your product or your service, but they were feeling risk. Think about your own purchases. This is what we do, right? And here's the thing that goes through their mind. We've all bought things that were not as advertised more often than not. It drives me nuts. I can't tell you how many of these cups that I had that, oh, that's a good deal. I'm going to buy that. Oh, I like the color. I'm going to buy that. And none of them did what I wanted them to do, which is to keep my darn drink cold throughout the day. So we've all, every time we buy a product or service that doesn't work the way it's advertised, we doubt ourselves and we doubt other providers just a little bit more. Just a little more doubt. Yeah, they said it was going to be this, but I don't know. That's why buyers are reticent. Yes, inflation is high. And yes, these are challenging times, but this psychology of buying has been moving this direction for a while. People are in risk. It's not just price, they are in risk and they're really, really challenged. So you've got to remember, the more someone wants to buy something, even if it's something as simple as these little, ear pod thingies or this little cup here, the more risk they are feeling and the more they want to buy from you and the more you sound great and the more they look at the results that you've gotten, the more risk they are feeling. I'm going to give you a great example of this. Shifco has been around for 4 years, and we started measuring how effective we were by measuring how much our members' businesses grow. Today, 85% of our members double their business most of the time within a year. I mean, that's freaking amazing. Guess what? It hasn't helped our conversion rate. You'd think with 85% of your members having that much success, it hasn't helped our conversion rate. Our conversion rate is about the same as it was a year ago and about the same as it was 2 years ago when we were really starting to find our stride. Think about that for just a second. So even with something as like we have a data point that shows how effective we are, it hasn't helped our conversion rate. Why? It isn't because of Shifco. It's because everybody has purchased a program, bought a training, purchased a book, hired a coach to try to help them grow their business, and it wasn't as advertised. So risk is really what you're trying to sell around. It's really not, you're trying to sell your business. What you're trying to do is authentically overcome risk. And the way that you do that is by accentuating value. The way that you overcome risk is by accentuating value. Think about the last purchase you made. Again, this was this product, and I don't know, is this really the one? I'm going to go to the store. I'm going to hold some different ones. I don't know. It's a little bigger, and I didn't want to make another wrong purchase. Well, what actually caused you to flip the switch and make the purchase? Was it Amazon deal days? In some cases it is. That's what caused me to do it. In other cases, I had a trigger event that said, this is the time I've got to get these headsets. Most of the time, it's a trigger event. Something in their life changes. In our business, people will be interested in Shifco, and then out of the blue, they'll just sign up. We're like, wow, what happened? I decided it was time to grow my business. And so that isn't about Shifco. I'm not doing anything different. What's changing is something inside of them. So what you've got to begin to understand is, what is the risk your buyer is experiencing? Even if it's a $13 product, what is the risk that they are experiencing? And how can you authentically overcome that? And the way in which I prescribe, I call it the PSV conversational model. Okay, I know that's a Terry kind of term, but what PSV stands for is problem, solution, value. So when I have a conversation with somebody, they've attended an event, they're thinking about Shifco, and they want to talk to me, and they'll be like, wow, the CEO and founder actually will have a conversation with you. Yeah, you bet I will, because I want to know whether or not you're serious about growing your business, because I want to work with people that are serious about growing their businesses. So I have a conversation with anybody that is serious about growing their business. I give them free advice and I serve them. So here's how that conversation goes. I start the conversation, tell me about you. What made you reach out to me? Where are you stuck? And then I shut up. So I don't talk about myself. I don't talk about Shifco. Everything is about them. And again, we're going to practice this here in a second. Everything is about what they're going through. What do they need? So what made you reach out to me? What are you looking for? Where are you stuck? Why is it important to you to grow your practice? And the first 20-30% of the conversation is me asking questions and listening, me asking questions and listening. I'm not saying anything about me. I'm not saying anything about Shifco. It's this problem, solution, value. Then, now think about this. Think about if you're on a conversation with me, you want to grow your business, I'm asking you these questions. You're thinking, here she goes. She's going to give me the special today, buy today. Here you go, right? You know, you're thinking that. I don't do that, nor should you. Instead, what you want to do is you want to understand a little bit more about what they have already tried, because the risk, let me say this nice and loudly, the risk is in what they have already tried that didn't work. And if right here I jump in with why we're great and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff, all I'm going to do is make the risk go up. Instead, I want you to talk about that risk. What have you tried? What types of solutions? Oh, you tried a course and courses don't work from you. Oh, you hired that $12,000 coaching program. Did it work? You know, and I'm genuinely talking to them about the solutions they've tried. As I do that, as I help them confront their risk goes down because we're calling the monster out of the closet. The monster that is in the closet is not whether or not Shifco will work. We've proven it has. The monster that is in the closet is all of the time someone made a purchase and it didn't work, particularly in the space that you're in, okay? So the second part of this conversation, we're going to role play a couple of these in a minute, is not what have you, why I'm great and here's what I do and all this kind of stuff. It's, well, what have you tried and what types of things will work? And, and really just being like that doctor that's asking those great questions rather than just writing a prescription. And then the third and last part is after they have talked about their problems and after they've shared with you the solutions they've tried that haven't worked, then you just tell a story of someone you helped. And the story is very simple. This was the situation. Here's what we did together. Here's the result that they got. You don't need to tell them your 3 benefits. You don't need to tell them all the 50 things you do. You just simply need to tell them a story of somebody like them that you've helped. All right, so I'm going to pause the slide, pause the recording. Great job. So that aspect is a really important part, and getting really good at having these conversations, and try to think of them less as a script or more along the lines of just problem solving. There's been tons and tons of psychological research that when you're selling products and services, if you'll just focus on the problems you solve, the way you solve them, and the value you provide, buyers will lower risk on their own. But remember, just like in these 2 examples, buyers buy when they're ready. 95 to 99% of the time, it is not about you. It is about they're not ready, that they need something's got a switch in them. And you want to just stay in contact with them until they're ready. Just want to remind you of 2 events that we have coming up. On October 22nd is Business Simple. If you haven't attended it, we'll really help you. It's really about scaling a business. And then on November 5th, for our New York state hub, we've got the Gather and Grow event, which is filled with all of our New York members. I am so glad that you guys had a chance to go through this with me today. If you are a Shifco member, please sign up for the Authentic Selling Collab. You're going to have 4 sessions where we're going to role play all of the different things that I covered today. And of course, if you're not a member, we would certainly love to have you in our community. feel free to reach out to me so I can learn more about your business and share more about how we help our members grow their business. Thanks, everybody.